Illegal mining continues to be a significant issue in South Africa, especially in mining towns like Rustenburg. Kgothatso Nhlengetwa is an artisanal mining expert and joins us now for a further discussion on this. A very good afternoon to you, Kgothatso. Thanks very much for your time. I was looking at that hole, and everything that has been reported around this particular incident. I find it so incredible. I don't know whether it highlights the resourcefulness of the Zamazamas, as some people have claimed, or whether, in fact, it points to desperation on the part of Zamazamas.
Good afternoon, Vuyo, and good afternoon to your viewers. Well, to be honest with you, I think it's a bit of both. One thing that I've learned as I've been researching within the artisanal mining space and within the illegal mining space is that the illegal miners are very innovative and have very ingenious methods to get to what they want. And that's usually as a result of their desperation. As we know, the unemployment rate in South Africa is quite high. And so it goes to a point where they will do almost anything to get the mineral. And something that I must really elaborate on is that sometimes you find that the copper thefts that were spoken about is actually intertwined with the fact that they're finding minerals. So you find that these syndicates are actually intertwined.
Wow, I mean, it shouldn't surprise anyone, should it? Because, I mean, if you're talking about 21 billion rands a year lost in sales, taxes, and royalties, if you consider the fact that Zamazama's outputs are said to be in excess of 14 billion rands a year, this is huge.
It's a very huge number, and it's growing by the day. And the problem is that, like we always say, is that we actually have 5 levels when we talk about the distribution of gold in the illegal mining space. You've actually got the first level where it's the Zamazama who's digging. Then you have the gold buyer who you often find on site. Then you'll have the gold distributor. And those are the first 3 levels. But there's 4th and 5th levels that we never see, which is where the gold goes from illegal to legal. And then it goes and gets distributed internationally. And this is one of the biggest problems that we have, is that we can never actually nip the bud at the top levels. So the money that is coming into illegal mining is actually been run at very high levels, because the Zamazama miner is actually just the man on the ground. And they dig the gold, but they have access to market, not really the good market, but rather the black market. And it's the question of how do we then nip the bud with the black market?
See, what baffles me is, I mean, with so much, I mean, if you look at these figures in terms of lost sales, taxes, royalties, and so on, add to that the threats to physical infrastructure, including electricity, which the chairperson of that former chairperson of that parliamentary committee was talking about. You would have thought that there would be so much focus from everyone involved. I'm talking about the mining companies. I'm talking about the various arms of government and of the state. But this doesn't seem to be the case. There's this a somewhat narrow, if you like, focus on let's go and arrest them. They appear in court, nothing comes of it, and then another group gets found, get arrested, or some of them at least, and then the same thing gets repeated, but you're not seeing any very real dent that these arrests are making on this issue at all.
That's so true, Vuyo, and these are some of the calls that some of us researchers have been speaking about, is that we need a collaborative approach. And there really is a lack of political will in our country, Vuyo, to actually curb the illegal mining scourge. And the problem with this is, I'm sorry to say, is that there are some politicians and there are some very high-level candidates and individuals who are part of these syndicates because they do get enriched. And it's not that the people on the ground don't know, it's that they do know, but they're just not willing to speak because of the mafias that actually control the illegal mining space. And the problem with this is that the poor man on the ground is the one that is then arrested, but then usually, more often than not, they've actually been trafficked either from Lesotho or Mozambique with the promise of having jobs, and the jobs that they find is that they're going underground for very little amount. If you can actually realize those billions that are being lost, they're not going to the Zama Zama mine on the ground. They're going to a level of individuals that we don't see that are being enriched. Whether you go to the Klerksdorp area, the Springs area, the Rustenburg area, you often find these rich individuals that stay in the background, that everybody who's in the system knows about. They're willing to talk to me as a researcher about it, but they'll never be willing to go to the media about it or willing to go to the police about it, because sometimes even the police themselves are involved in this corruption and with this collusion. So it's a very difficult thing to try and solve when the very people who are supposed to solve it are not willing and don't have the political will to do so.
But what about the attitudes of the mining industry, though? When I'm asking this on the back of arguments that certain people have made, that perhaps as a country we could look at the at harnessing the economic potential, of mining artisans, and see, go beyond strictly like a sort of a hammer. A big 6-pound hammer attitude, towards this, and say, how can we look at ways of harnessing this? Where there is economic potential, let's look at new regulations or new laws that can harness the potential while not criminalizing certainly areas which shouldn't be criminalized.
For sure. And I must say one thing at this point, Vuyo, is that there actually is an artisanal and small-scale mining policy that was gazetted in 2022. But since then, we haven't really seen anything much with results of, getting it a law or an act or a bill in place that is promulgated. The only thing is that we need to make sure that there's a difference that is noted between artisanal miners and Zama Zama miners. And let me make this basis clear. Artisanal miners are typically the miners that are willing to mine legally, given a place, giving artisanal mining zones where we say, okay, in these areas, the industrial miners cannot mine. We will make this an artisanal and small-scale mining zone, and you come and mine here. Whereas the Zama Zama miner is the one linked with the syndicates, and that goes into deep underground gold mines that are misused, disowned, or derelict. Now, my question is always, if you create the avenue and the space for artisanal mining to take place, I kid you not, most people who are in Zama Zama mining will go over into artisanal mining, because most of them, about 80% of the people that I speak with and have surveyed in one of my projects, want to be legal. And that is the man on the ground. So if we create the space, we can make sure that we have more artisanal mining and less Zama Zama mining.
But are those conversations even taking place? Wait.
Those conversations seemed to be taking place. In 2022, we really thought we were making progress. We thought that we were going to have some guidelines in place. We thought by now, 2 years later, that we were going to have some form of guideline, some sort of bill, some sort of act. But at this point in time, we formed cooperatives. The National Association of Artisanal Miners told their constituency to form cooperatives, but they go to regional level, and some of the regional officers don't even know that there's a policy in place. They don't even know how to give them mining permits. There's not even a strategy of how to give a cooperative of artisanal miners mining permits. So we're still at that phase where it's very much in its infancy. But when you look at other countries like Tanzania, and you look at other countries and see what they're doing, you can see that it's a collaborative approach where banks are coming together, where the government is coming together, where large-scale mining is coming together. And what they're doing is they're making sure that it's a collaborative effort, because individually, law enforcement approach and the iron fist approach just isn't cutting it. And we've seen this for the decades that this has been going on.
But I mean, it takes somebody to initiate and run with especially things that are new. Who took the foot off the pedal, so to speak, in this particular instance? If around 2022 there was momentum and then suddenly things stopped, what happened?
I don't want to play the blame game for you, but I think what stopped is the consulting of people on the ground stopped. Because the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy was consulting us on the ground. It was consulting researchers, it was consulting the miners, and there was consulting on the ground. But once that stopped, then there seemed to be nothing going on. Then there was just silence. Because here I am, Vuyo, I'm putting up my hand as Kgothatso Nhlengetwa saying, give me a chance, let me be the champion. Let us see, because I go all around Africa advocating for artisanal and small-scale mining, and though I put my hand up, we don't have the political will that says there's a researcher who can run a program and we work with the researcher. Give us the chance and we will do the work if you don't have the capacity to do so.
Given the, or maybe could it be, maybe that's how I should ask this question, could it be that those who are given or who have the responsibility of running with these things, and I dare say in this instance, I mean the government in particular, seem to have more issues to contend with, and this particular issue pales in significance? Could that be the reason why there isn't a great deal of movement?
I really think they don't put as much importance as they should. It is put in the background, and it really is put in the background. But when you look at the sheer numbers, because right now with an estimate in South Africa, we're estimating about 100,000 to 120,000 people who are estimated to be active within Zama Zama and artisanal mining. And this is a very, very loose estimate. So yes, there are other issues that they are putting to the forefront, but they are doing so at their own expense and at their own demise.
What about the industry? Are they alive to the realities or what Zama Zamas are, the damage that is caused by Zama Zamas, but also the potential, that artisanal mining may have? Are they alive to those realities?
I think most industrial mining companies and large-scale mining companies see Zama Zama mining as just a nuisance and an illegal form of mining. It has never been really articulated, the potential of artisanal mining, because the difference has never been drawn. So I think once there's a change of narrative and we have more of that understanding and a deeper understanding of the fact that Zama Zama mining can only be formalized, quote unquote, if we create a secondary avenue of artisanal mining where people will then see that there's a potential in artisanal mining. And we've already started. It's just a matter of having that collaborative approach and political will to be able to carry on.